In this video, we're going to look at covering dividing with decimals in the divisor and the dividend. Our learning goal is I can divide positive rational numbers fluently. On this slide, the first thing you'll notice is down at the bottom, there is another video with more detailed instructions about dividing with decimals and some more examples. So after you watch this one, if you feel like you still need a little more practice, click that one and you can go to it and watch it. So dividing with decimals works exactly like regular long division, just we have to move the decimal. So in this first example here, we're dividing 2 and 35 hundredths by the number 5, the whole number 5. So we set it up the usual way. Instead, though, we move our decimal from the dividend up to the quotient. So we take that decimal point and just move it straight up. And then we divide like normal. So you see 5 can't go into 2, but it can go into 23 4 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract and we get 3. We bring down our 5, and then 5 will go into 35 7 times. So our answer is 47 hundredths. Sometimes you'll see that with a 0 in the front in the units place, but it still means the same thing. So in this second example, we have a decimal in both our dividend and our divisor. So what we have to do when there's a decimal in our divisor is we have to move the decimal to the right on both the dividend and the divisor until you're getting a whole number. So as you see here, we have 6 and 85 hundredths divided by 5 tenths. So I have to first move this decimal in 5 tenths over to the right, which really means I'm multiplying by 10. And if I move a decimal in the divisor, I have to also move it the same number of spaces in the dividend. So as you can see, I'm making 5 tenths into 5. I'm making 6 and 85 hundredths into 68 and 5 tenths now. So this decimal in the divisor now we can get rid of. We just divide like normal. We move our decimal up to the quotient. So 5 now goes into 68 and 5 tenths. So 5 can go into 6 one time. That's 5. Subtracted, we get 1. We move down that 8. 5 can go into 18 3 times. That's 15. We subtract, we get 3. We bring down that last 5. So 5 can go into 35 7 times. So our answer is 13 and 7 tenths. We can always check that by multiplying. You'll multiply your quotient times your divisor, and that will should give you your dividend. So let's look at some word problems now with examples of dividing decimals. We have that the grocery store got a shipment of 2 4/10 pounds of blueberries. They're putting them into containers with 3/10 of a pound in each container. So we want to know how many containers we can make. I started out by dividing the total weight of the blueberries by the amount they're putting into each container. So 2 4/10 divided by 3/10. I have to move my decimal in my divisor over one place, which really means I'm multiplying by 10. And then I have to do the same thing in my dividend. Multiply 2.4 or 2 4/10 times 10, and that gives me 24. Well, now I'm just dividing whole numbers. It's pretty simple. So 3 can go into 24 8 times. So that means that they can make 8 containers with 3/10 of a pound in each one. In our next example, Brooklyn has 12 yards of ribbon. She uses 25 hundredths or a quarter of a yard to make each bow for the cheerleaders. So how many bows can she make? Well, in our divisor now, we've got 2 decimal places, so we have to move our decimal to the right twice, which really means I'm multiplying by 100. I have to do the same thing in the dividend, but it's got a whole number. So I add that decimal and put a couple of zeros in there. Now I'm just dealing with dividing whole numbers again. So I have 1,200 now divided by 25. Okay, so 25 can't go into 1, can't go into 12. It can go into 120, though, 4 times. 4 times 25 is 100. Subtract, I get 20. Bring down my 0, and 25 goes into 200 8 times. One more example. A pharmacist put 4 and 536 thousandths of an ounce of vitamin pills into bottles. She put 42 thousandths of an ounce into each bottle. So how many bottles did she use? Well, once again, if we take the total amount and divide it by how much is in each one, we're going to figure out how many bottles she used. In this case, I've got thousandths place. So I have to move my decimal to the right 3 times, and again in my dividend 3 times. So I'm now dealing with whole numbers. I can drop the 0 at the beginning because it has no value now. This is just like the number 42, dividing into 4,536. So 42 can't go into 4, but it can go into 45 one time. 1 times 42 is 42. Subtract, I get 3. Bring down my second 3. 42 can't go into 33, so I have to put a 0 in my quotient and then bring down my 6. Well, 42 goes into 336 now, 8 times. That leaves me with no remainder, so she used 108 bottles. Remember to check out that second video on slide 2 if you need more examples. Happy dividing!